So there are three main categories of energy that have been discussed in this class, which we haven't really discussed them entirely. You guys did kind of play around with them in the skate park simulation we did before break. But there are three types of energy that we will be discussing. Those three main categories are energy that is stored, energy in motion, and energy as a result of motion. All right. Energy that is stored. This is our first category. Energy that is stored. This is sometimes referred to as potential energy. In this class, we will call it PE for shorthand, but potential energy. However, that is too vague of a term because it doesn't actually describe how the energy is being stored. We have a few different types of potential energy. We have EEL, elastic potential energy. So this is energy that is stored in the stretch of an elastic or compression of a string. So for example, I have here like a ponytail, right? And if I stretch it and just hold it, so it's held open, this is called elastic potential energy. Because what's going to happen when I release this? Is it going to move? Yeah, it's going to bounce back to its shape, right? So that's elastic potential energy. That's also the same as like the compression in a spring. Like you take a spring and you squish it down, and then when you release it, the spring pops up, right? We will be seeing this in a lab that we're going to do tomorrow and Wednesday. It's a wind-up toy and Airzuka, which we're going to be playing with tomorrow and Wednesday. Then we have ECH, which is known as chemical potential energy. This is the energy that's stored in particles like battery or foods. So you might not know this, you might. Foods that we eat store a bunch of energy. That's actually how we get energy. So that's usually stored in a molecule called glucose. That's usually the molecule that our body breaks down to give us energy. But there's also some energy in forms of starches and proteins and fats as well. But that's going to be chemical energy. So we are going to see this in our lab on tomorrow/Wednesday. We see it with the tumble buggy, which we've already done the tumble buggy lab when we played with the electric cars, and Cheetos. Cheetos store chemical potential energy. Another type of potential energy is EG, otherwise known as gravitational potential energy. So this is energy that's stored on an object that is being displaced in a way that would allow it to fall closer to the surface of the Earth. You are going to see this in our lab with the popper after it went airborne and with bouncy balls. So bouncy balls, as you drop them and they're falling towards Earth, they have a gravitational potential energy. Down a little bit. There are three main types of potential energy: chemical potential energy, elastic potential energy, and gravitational potential energy. The symbols, or the way that we classify them or write a symbol for them: chemical is ECH, elastic is EEL, and gravitational is EG. Next, we're going to move into the next category of energy. So the first category we talked about was energy not in motion, or still energy. Now we're going to talk about energy that is in motion. So energy that is in motion is referred to as kinetic energy, and that's going to be fine. We're going to call it kinetic energy always. The symbol for kinetic energy is capital E, lowercase k, and this is energy that is observed through motion of an object. We're going to see all stations that we do in our lab tomorrow/Wednesday have motion in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to see a form of kinetic energy at each lab station that we do tomorrow and Wednesday. All right, the last type of energy that we're going to talk about is energy that is a result of motion. So energy that occurs because motion happened. This is sometimes referred to as friction. But friction doesn't tell us where all of the energy went. It just tells us that there was some energy there. Okay? So friction has a different name for it that we're actually going to use here in physical science. And that is ETH, otherwise known as thermal energy. This is going to be the abbreviation we use for friction. So what happens when you rub your hands together really hard for a long period of time? Do they get cold or hot? Hot, right? Or if you were to take a stick and two sticks and you were to rub them together for a really long time out in the forest, what's going to happen?
They make fire.
Eventually they make fire. They get a little bit of smoke. Okay? Did you know that that's from friction? Hopefully most of us did know that. Okay? Friction does give off thermal energy or thermal heat. So what happens is the energy from the kinetic movement gets transferred into heat energy. And this is a result of an interaction between two objects. Their energy gives off as heat. Okay? And that's usually because of friction.